Some weeks 49ers fans do not want pretty promises. They want signs of life. They want physical answers. They want big team decisions. Because the window waits for nobody, and San Francisco knows that better than any rival trying to downplay this roster. Today starts with the knee of a defender who could change the entire pressure package up front, moves into a possible way to protect McCaffrey, hits a trade that way too many people are underrating, and ends with a delicate decision in the secondary. Hit that like button, because this one is about protecting the present without losing the future. Mykel Williams carries part of the answers San Francisco needs before September. And I know a lot of people looked at that 2025 pass rush, saw only 20 sacks, the worst mark in the league, and started screaming for an edge rusher at the top of the draft. I get it. When the 49ers defense does not scare quarterbacks, it feels like something basic about this franchise is out of place. But the front office moved like it still sees a bigger plan for the player it took in the first round in 2025. Williams almost became a forgotten name because the injury cut his story in half. That torn right ACL on November 2nd against the Giants at MetLife Stadium did not just take away games, it took away development, rhythm, public confidence, and the kind of snap-by-snap growth that turns raw talent into a trusted piece. That is why the update from The Athletic, through Matt Barrows and Vic Tafur, matters emotionally for this fanbase. During rookie minicamp, even as a second-year player, Williams was there, working off to the side on the north end of the field, doing lateral movement and resistance band work for 35 minutes before heading into the weight room. That is not a triumphant return. That is not him wrecking a tackle in full practice. But it is visible progress, and at this stage, visible progress matters. John Lynch has already indicated Williams should return to practice at some point during training camp, while there is still uncertainty about whether he will be ready for the regular season opener against the Rams in Melbourne, Australia. Still, compared to the fear of a mid-season return, this already changes the temperature of the conversation. And the strategic piece is massive. Romello Height arrived in the third round to be used in more specific situations, especially on third downs. Williams, when healthy, gives you a different kind of structure. He can set the edge against the run on early downs, then kick inside in obvious passing situations where his power and burst can bother guards who do not want that type of athlete in their chest. That is how a defensive line gets layers, not just with one big name flashing, but with roles finally fitting together. Nick Bosa needs help that offenses actually respect. This defense needs to close space again, speed up decisions, and make quarterbacks feel like their internal clock is broken. If Williams gets close to what San Francisco believed he could be when it took him in the top 15, the whole read on this front changes. And maybe that is why the 49ers did not panic early in the draft. They are not ignoring the need. They are betting that one major answer was already in the building, just waiting for the need to allow it. And that same idea, protecting a key piece before the wear and tear sends the bill, takes us straight to the offense and Christian McCaffrey. If Mykel Williams' recovery is about bringing force back to the defense, Antonio Gibson touches a different nerve. The fear of watching Christian McCaffrey get used like he is unlimited. And let's talk like real fans for a second. Everybody loves when McCaffrey is on the field because he changes the entire face of the offense. He turns a simple play into a threat. He makes linebackers think before they blink. He gives Brock Purdy a clean outlet when chaos starts. But because he is that valuable, the 49ers cannot treat his body like a disposable resource. That is why this market rumor around Gibson makes sense in a very human way. He was released by the Patriots, he is available, and San Francisco has an interesting backfield with Isaac Guerendo, Jordan James, Patrick Taylor, Sincere McCormick, and rookie Kalen Black. But interesting is not the same thing as settled. In a 17-game season, with real expectations to fight at the top of the NFC, depth is not a luxury. It is protection against fatigue, injury, rhythm dips, and those Sundays where the original plan has to change before halftime. Gibson would not come in to steal the spotlight from McCaffrey. That would not be the right read. His value would be giving Kyle Shanahan another multi-use piece. A runner, a short-game receiver, a player who can line up in different ways, and someone with return experience. For an offense built on motion, disguise, angles, and defensive hesitation, that kind of player can be more dangerous than he looks on paper. It is not always about having the biggest star. Sometimes it is about having the piece that keeps the defense from guessing the next punch. And cost drives this conversation. If Gibson is willing to take an affordable one-year deal with a real chance to compete for a role in camp, I do not see that as a luxury move. I see it as a mature attempt to protect what San Francisco has most valuable on offense without locking up the future financially. Lynch and Shanahan have to think this way. How do you keep McCaffrey explosive in December, not just fresh in September? Because real contenders do not just build the starting 11, they build the path for their stars to arrive intact when the season gets cruel. And now we get to a move that, to me, is not getting nearly enough respect: the arrival of Osa Odighizuwa. Some moves shine because they sell jerseys, some draft picks dominate the conversation for weeks, and then some moves just change the math inside the game. This is one of those. Because the 49ers' problem last year was not just they needed more pressure in some generic way. They needed danger from the middle. They needed that interior collapse that forces a quarterback off his spot before the route has time to develop. The numbers show why this trade could matter so much. Alfred Collins, C.J. West, Jordan Elliott, and Kalia Davis combined for 51 pressures during the season. Odighizuwa had 52 by himself. That is not a tiny difference hiding in a spreadsheet. That is the difference between asking an entire group to make up for a missing piece and adding a player who has already produced exactly where this defense was lacking impact. When the pocket does not cave in from the inside, the quarterback can step up, escape the edge, breathe against Bosa, and turn pressure into almost pressure. Niners fans know that pain. What I like about this addition is that it organizes everybody else. Collins and West can be used with more focus against the run. Odighizuwa and Grayson Halton can attack with more freedom in passing situations. Suddenly, the line does not have to pretend every player has the same job. Everybody starts to make more sense. That is contender building. It is not stacking names just to stack names. It is spreading out responsibilities until the rotation feels cleaner, more aggressive, and more honest. And there is another point people do not want to admit. San Francisco may not have had many clean ways to fix this any other way. John Franklin Myers was a market option with a similar profile, but he went to the Titans. In the draft, Caleb Banks was gone before the 49ers had a shot, and Peter Woods came with projection questions even in the range where the team eventually moved. So when a more proven solution appears for a team that is not asking permission to compete 3 years from now, you do not treat it like a footnote. You treat it like an answer. That is why I want to hear from the Niners war room in the comments. Is Odighizuwa the most underrated defensive addition of the year? Or does he still need to prove that impact travels to Santa Clara? I am on the strong bet side. Because if he brings real interior pressure, Mykel Williams gets a better setup, Bosa gets indirect help, the linebackers play freer, and the secondary does not have to cover forever. Sometimes the move that changes a defense does not come with fireworks. It comes with fit. And this fit could be huge. The fourth story has a different feel, because this is not just about talent. This is about a player's path. Ephesians Prysock barely arrived with the 49ers, taken in the 4th round out of Washington, and Dante Whitner has already put a strong idea on the table. Send the kid straight to the safeties room and let him start learning there. Coming from a former safety who understands the mental violence of that position, that is not an empty opinion. But it is not a small suggestion either. It is the kind of idea that makes a coaching staff take a deep breath before making a move. Prysock is a cornerback by trade. He knows how to live on the outside, use his body against receivers, fight passing windows, and use the sideline as an ally. His college career showed solid coverage work and pass breakups, even without a huge pile of turnovers. And the size jumps off the screen. 6'4", long arms, rare reach for a defensive back. When you see that profile, you understand why someone like Whitner imagines him in the middle of the field. A safety with that kind of length can close angles, bother contested throws, and change the feeling of space for a quarterback. But the dangerous part is right there. Turning a corner into a free safety is not just moving a piece on a board and calling it done. The processing changes, the eyes change, the responsibility changes. Instead of winning a more direct battle against one receiver, he may have to read full route combinations, control depth, adjust communication, protect the top of the defense, and get to the right spot without hesitation. If Prysock absorbs that quickly, San Francisco could find a different kind of defender, big, flexible, with an interesting ceiling. If it takes time, his first year could become almost a transition season, with limited real contribution. And the 49ers cannot look at this in a vacuum. The safety room has Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown, and Marquise Siegel as the main names, all with some level of promise, but not enough to shut the door on competition. At the same time, cornerback is not locked down either. Diamador Lunoir and Upton Stout feel safer, but Runardo Green is coming off a rough year and still has to prove he deserves long-term trust. So the internal question has to be uncomfortable. Where does Prysock have the best chance to help this roster without damaging the natural pace of his own development? I understand the temptation to listen to Whitner. A defender with that kind of size patrolling the deep part of the field makes your imagination run. But as a relentless defender of the 49ers, I do not want to see San Francisco force a conversion just because the idea sounds smart in May. The team needs to test it, watch it, compare reps, and feel where the kid plays freer. If safety unlocks the best version of him, great. If cornerback is still the cleaner path, there is no shame in keeping a player where he already knows how to compete. Because the mistake here would be expensive. Not just on the 2026 scoreboard, but in the development of a player who is just getting started. Prysock can become a special piece because of that rare mix of height, length, and coverage ability. The 49ers' job is to find the position that unlocks it, not the position that sounds smartest on a microphone. In the end, this script leaves one strong feeling. The 49ers are not looking for comfort. They are looking for answers. Mykel Williams could bring aggression back to a front that suffered too much. Antonio Gibson would be a smart way to avoid turning McCaffrey into a solo workload. Odighizuwa feels like the kind of addition that changes the defense from the inside before everybody notices. And Prysock represents the care Santa Clara has to take with young talent. That is the weight of a team trying to win a title now. Every decision has consequences. If you are living this season with me, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and stay close. The Niners ride is heating up.